How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, the video is going to be a brand new deck vault. This is a video that's had a long-awaited return, and it's really fun, especially at the beginning of a format, to be able to show you every single list that I have right now that you can take a look at, test out, and I'll leave all of the deck links down below in the description, so definitely go ahead and download them, check them out, and see what you would change, as these are just starters for the beginning of the format, but I do think that they're all very effective. We'll break down each one card by card for the tech cards that you'll see. So the first thing is that these are going to be for post dude. So we do already have Marshmallow. Card's pretty crazy. We only have one Obedient Schooled. That's okay though. We do cut down on Cookie and the Lollipo for 3 Marshmallow and add 1 for 1. So now we can go Surprise, bring back Marshmallow, add back Surprise, so it's a free body. And then you have 1 for 1 to pair with cards like Nibiru and Fualos, especially if they're already dead cards for you. You can just go ahead and get a free summon. But 1 for 1 should be a mandatory staple in the deck now, which is a really good card. Playing 18 hand traps. The sideboard has 3 of the Retaliating Sea, 1 contact. I feel like you're less worried about your zones being locked now because you have Engage and 1 Obedient Schooled, so there's not really going to be too much that you have to worry about, especially since Engage can just be activated if you have no monsters in your main monster zone. So I'm more apt to play cards like Nibiru, the Seas, right? It doesn't really matter too much if your cards are blocking your zones now. So I think that's really cool, and that's something that we can really abuse in the deck now, right? 3 Surprise is something else that I think should just be mandatory. I think the card is too good not to be running. You definitely side them out when you're going second down to like 1 copy, but otherwise, I think going first, this is a card that you definitely want to see, as it's one of your best extenders that you're going to have. With the inclusion of Linkuriboh, I think that it's going to be absolutely fantastic for protecting Herald. Your opponent calls battle, you go start a battle, tribute a level 1, summon out Linkuriboh. Now your opponent can't swing over the Herald unless they have like 2 monsters, right? So that's definitely going to be awkward for them too. Now for Striker Draco, the deck that I've been getting a ton of questions about. And I did make a couple changes. I added in the Iron Thunders and Solemn Judgment. I did add in the Masterpiece, and there can be only one over the Ignis Heats. I do think that you need to be on Solemn Judgment and the double Iron Thunder, because Lightning Storm being at 3 now with Duster is too many ways to just go ahead and pop all your back row, and that's been a huge issue. So that's something that you definitely want to run to make sure that that's going to be less of an issue. The single most powerful card in this deck is just Set Rotation. Give your opponent Error 0, use Set Diagram, you get to your Heritage off Diagram, you send the Heritage by any means that you have, and then you pop your opponent's Area 0. Area 0, summon Ray. Ray tag out into 0. Now you have engaged 3 spells, which is just insane, the amount of ways that you can get to 3 spells in grave. And this deck almost always sees Ray, which is crazy too, because that's been a huge issue in the past about how do you get to an ace monster. I beat Yummy earlier, which was really funny because I had a impermed 0 on board. Then I used Era 0 effect to summon Ray because I knew it would bait out the Cookie Yummy way to book my Ray, which he did, and then I just slammed Masterpiece on the board, and then my opponent was like, oh. I swung over his Synchro, I popped his Link 1, and then on the next turn he just had a cat to summon, so I just popped the cat and it was over. And I think that's really crazy just because Masterpiece is still a house, still a very good card, but now we have a very effective way of getting to everything that you want to do in this deck, which is awesome. The amount of draw power is crazy. We do main deck that 1 there can be only 1 because that card is still a house by itself, so I do hope that you enjoy this deck. I think this deck's going to be very good moving forward. One thing that I want to get out of the way immediately is that Malice is still a deck in the format, and it's still going to be something that you have to look for, because of the fact that we have the Fiendsmith variant, we have the Striker variant, which is still just as good. And honestly, there might even be a different variation where you just made as many cards as you can that put a body on board. So Bestials, Nibiru, whatever you can, because at that point it makes Haggard premium. And I could see people even trying to play like 2 Haggard for like a follow-up play too, because a lot of times Splash Mage, you didn't necessarily want to use it turn 1. If you had to, then you do. But it was a really good follow-up card, especially through cards like Nibiru. But now if you have as many ways to put another body on board, you're never playing into Nibiru, which is really good, because you're at least able to put up a Link 3, which is really important. And at that point, if you control your resources properly, and you add like an underground for follow-up, and you don't banish a name right away, you're always able to play the game no matter what. So I do think that that's really important too. I think the Fiendsmith variant is real in this deck. I think that it's really good, puts up a lot of bodies, and it gives you access to things like Caesar. It gives you access to a bow. It is a little scary with everyone playing cards like Ghost Ogre, but I do think that even cutting the impulse from this deck to play the Fiendsmith engine, it's really good because it just gives you a lot more ways to grind, a lot more ways to play, and it makes the deck two-dimensional versus just the way that it was already being played. And I think this is definitely the way to go about it moving forward. Not having Splash Mage means that there's only one of one ways to get locked out of the game into just Cybers, and that's going to be Wicked. And you always have to do your Fiendsmith plays first because you don't want to have the link lock problem from the Malice cards. So either Wizard or the link lock is going to be things you have to worry about, but as long as you're opening Fiendsmith combo, it doesn't really matter too much. You have access to things in this deck like Retaliating Sea, which is really powerful as well. It's also just another monster on the board. If your opponent can't out at turn 1, you just go normal summon, make Haggard, which is also really strong. Another thing that's really powerful about Retaliating is that you don't even have to worry about linking it off. You can just normal summon a Malice name, go link 1 into Lingribo, and then it gets banished, so you can just bring your Malice name back anyway, and that's a link 3 right there. So, a really good utility card for the deck and something that I could see maybe even moving to the main deck at one point. If you want to play a super aggro banish Malice deck and playing like Shifter in the main with Retaliating, it's really good into Yummy and it's really good into Dracotail. So I could definitely see that be a variant coming up here soon, just because Malice is not dead. It's still a very real deck and something that you have to respect. Dracotail is certainly an option in this format, and Branded Fusion being at 2 is definitely very good for the deck. That's something that you can use the new Dracotail to send from deck to grave and be able to have both combos. We are just strictly reliant on seeing this card at this point. We don't want to play other normal summons because we already have good normal summons in the deck like Lucius and Malulu, but that does not mean that top decking Branded Fusion is not absolutely correct. We already play Cartasia, so just playing a 1 Elbaz and 2 Branded Fusion is super clean, and you still have a lot of room for hand traps. We're still playing 2 Pan and 2 Urgula because you want to make sure that you see those cards along with Femina, especially if you're going second, just because it gives you another way to go ahead and interact with your opponent in multiple ways. And I think that this is going to be another deck that you really have to look out for. It's going to be really popular in this format, and this is something that I feel like if I were to play this deck, this is the build that I would definitely play, just because it's hyper consistent, it does everything you want it to, and then you had the added benefit of playing Branded Fusion. I've heard a lot of people talk about K9 Crystron being a lesser deck in the format now, but I disagree. 1 Noroi is full combo because you put up Stormer, Search Recycler, and then link off the Noroi that you brought back with the Lantern and the Stormer into Gadget, then Gadget summons Recycler. So no matter what, you're still going to have access to combo. The deck's still hyper consistent, and it still has a lot of ways to play. Yes, 1 Inclusion is a little weird, but at the same time, I don't really feel like that's the nail in the coffin, just because the deck can still play at such a high level. And you have 3K, so you have 2 chaotic elements in the main deck right now. You could play a third if you want to, but I think 5 ways to search is fine. And then I know a lot of lists aren't playing the X-Force, but I think right now more than ever it's more correct just to play it. I think that there's a lot more ways now to get hand trapped on your K9 monsters, so I do think that having the X-Force to punish that with the Ripper play is really smart. And I do think that this is still going to be a meta threat moving forward. For those of you who don't know the K9 Crystron combo, let me just show you this so that you're ahead. This is really powerful, and it's just off Noroi. So Noroi obviously is going to be like the biggest Valor Imperm target possible right now, but if this card resolves, you probably just won the game. So you summon Jokul, add your Lantern, make Ripper, add the Azuna, and then you're going to go Lantern, revive the Noroi. You specifically detach the Noroi, and you'll see why. Lantern, grab Case, grab Jokul. Now this is the dumb part. You go Noroi, look at your opponent's hand, you don't rip, but you get perfect knowledge, so you know what to go for next, and you know what you have to play around. So now you summon out Jokul Azuna dump the Lupus. Now you go the Stormer into Recycler, and since you brought back the Noroi, you have a machine and a machine, now you go into Plat Gadget. Plat Gadget summon the Recycler, and now you go full Crystron combo through the Smiger that you dump and add Inclusion. I know that you've heard of Mitzoo, but have you heard of Mitzoo? This is going to be a very good deck moving forward because of the fact that we have the Zodiac cards to go ahead and bait everything on the board, right? If you slap a Zodiac card on the board and then summon Borbo, it's going to be rough for your opponent because at that point you're like, attack directly, Zeus, right? And it's definitely going to be a way to start breaking boards. We have 3 Barrage, and we're just going to play a very minimal number. We have 3-2-1 here. The Ram still really good to play, but this is going to be the way that you can go ahead and start like baiting interactions, so then you can go hobby carry directly after and really start building a board to pushing for lethal. So I think this is going to be one of the crazier decks this format. We've seen concepts like this in the past with things like Adventure, but I think now having Mitzoo is one of the strongest engines in the game still, and then also having those Zodiac cards that are some of the biggest pressures on the board that don't even activate anything to go ahead and start trying to clear, so you just have to activate something to clear, right? And I think that at that point, if you're just baiting interactions with the Zodiac cards, that's perfectly fine, because now we're just going to go ahead and use our Mitsurugi cards, right? So definitely very, very good, and something that you want to look out for in the format. But I think this is going to be like one of the low-key sleeper picks of the format that could be really good. Definitely let me know what you think about all these decks down below in the comment section, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.